For those that don't know me, I'm Donica Forencich. I am the Economic Development Director for the Cal Poly Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I oversee the SBDC and the Startup Incubator Program. So today we're going to, as Nikki was talking about, we're talking about an overview of AngelCon, who's eligible and who's the ideal candidate. We're going to go over the schedule, the time commitment and expectations, and have a Q&A. So we're here to answer any questions you have about AngelCon. And today, so again, feel free to pop in with your questions if you have them. Otherwise, hopefully we'll answer them as we go. But again, we'll have we have an hour, so our slides won't take an hour. So any questions you have, we will have plenty of time for that. So what is AngelCon? Hopefully you are familiar with it somewhat. It's a startup, annual event that connects Central California startups with angel investors. So it's their mission is threefold. We want to train new investors. We want to provide access to capital to local startups, and we want to showcase up and coming entrepreneurs. And we do this in ways that the SBDC is able to provide training to the startups that are in the top 12 and top 6. These startups will be able to pitch for a chance to receive an investment from the angel investors. And then the angel investors that make up the fund, they play a hands-on role in evaluating and selecting the applicants that lead up to the live event. And we provide those investors training, which started back in September, actually. We have monthly trainings for them that will go on through April, when the event will be held at the end of April. And so the impact over the years, we are going into AngelCon 2026, which is Fund 9. So with the previous 8 years, there's been over $1 million awarded to the winners, and approximately $75 million in follow-up investments for the top 6 finalists over those 8 years. And what we've been able to do is we've been able to have 96 companies participate in our annual pitch prep program, which is hands-on experience to refine your story and your strategy. 48 companies have successfully completed due diligence and pitched live to the investor team, and nearly 100 investors have been trained through our program. Now, these are some of our past finalists and winners, and so you can see how they've been achieving very successful results coming out of this program. So the opportunities that are available to you should you make the top 12. So what happens is if you apply to AngelCon, the investors will review all the applicants after that first due date of January 16th. That next week, the investors will review the applicants and they will select a top 12. Those top 12 get mentorship throughout the month of February. You get matched with an SBDC advisor who'll guide you through the program. We have an intensive pitch prep at boot camp where you'll refine your pitch. You'll pitch to evaluator panels and get feedback on the spot on how to refine your pitch. And then you'll get various media exposure. We have various press release, social media spotlights, and featured placement on our AngelCon website. The end of February, which we'll go over the timeline in a little more detail later, the top 12 will pitch to the investor panel, and they'll narrow down the field to the top 6 finalists. From there, you'll compete for the $100,000 plus in equity funding and Audience Choice Award. You'll go through an extensive due diligence review experience, including a workshop on how to conduct due diligence, setting up your data room, and you'll engage with investors over a 6-week period. You'll get exposure to our investors. You will be hands-on with the investor panel that's part of the AngelCon fund, as well as pitch live in front of 175 plus investors and network. And you'll get even more media visibility. We feature our top 6. We do reels on various social media, and we have various dedicated media outlets that will help advertise and support our AngelCon program. Now, in order to be eligible for AngelCon, this backs off the thesis that the investors have chosen for the fund, that you want to be on the road to product market fit with progress for the following milestones. You've either completed a proof of concept, you've completed an MVP, or you have some early revenue. You have potential for scalability and high growth. You have a team with the ability to execute, and you must be based in Central California or affiliated with Cal Poly, CIE, or SBDC programs. Now, Central California, we define that as south of the Bay Area, north of Los Angeles, from the coast into the Central Valley. So the whole entire Central Coast is eligible. So if you're in northern Santa Barbara County, if you're in Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, into the Central Valley, you would be eligible. It's not only for San Luis Obispo companies. This is the timeline here. The applications have been open since November. Most of them will come in on January 16th. We use a platform called Submittable, where you can see all of the application questions. There's availability to upload financial details, other information that would be relevant to submitting with your application that you want the investors to know. Again, as I said, the semifinalists or the top 12 will be chosen on January 23rd and notified that day. You will have the weekend to accept. On Monday, we make the announcement. And then we go into the pitch prep boot camp, and that is covered over the month of February 2026. At the end of February, you will pitch live for the investor panel. We are doing that in a hybrid format this year. You can come here to San Luis Obispo to do your pitch in front of the investor panel live, or you can choose to do it on Zoom. We will make those options available. And then on that day, the investors will narrow it down to the 6th. They will be notified. And then you'll go into due diligence. There'll be a workshop the first week of March, and then you'll set up your data rooms, and then due diligence will continue until the live event, which will be held on April 30th. So here is the road to 100,000 plus, and the applications are due January 16th. Submittable is the platform, as I mentioned. There is a $100 application fee. We will choose the top 12 on the 23rd and then notify them. You'll have an opportunity to pitch twice a week for several weeks over February. Again, we will pick the top 6 on February 27th. Go into a lot of due diligence, kicking the tires. You'll get to know the investors really well. If you're in the top 6, we break the investors into 6 teams. Each team of investors is assigned to one of the finalists, and they really dig in and get to know you. It's a lot of fun. And then we will go into the second week of April. We will go into more pitch practice as well. And then typically we do a run through 2 weeks before the live event at the event venue, so you can practice on stage. And throughout this process, you can continue to refine your pitch. You can work with your SBDC advisor that's assigned to you and take advantage of any of our SBCC services that we have available. And then April 30th is the big event. It's a lot of fun. It will be held here in San Luis Obispo. In the past, it's been held at Rod and Hammer Rock, also known as Slow Brew Rock. We aren't sure if it will be at that location or another location as of yet. But in any event, it's the live pitch. It's a 10-minute pitch. All 6 will go. Then the investors, after the 6 pitches, will go backstage. They will choose the winner or winners. And during that time, the audience will have a choice to pick their favorite as well. There's a GoFundMe campaign that the audience choice winner receives that fund. I think last year we raised just over $2,000 for the audience choice winner, which has been the most raised over the 8 years. And then the finalists, the winner received $125,000 investment. Some years, depending on the size of the fund, there have been 2 awards awarded, a first and a second prize. The winner is always promised at least $100,000 in an investment, and the runner-up, it has ranged from $40,000 to $75,000. It's not a guaranteed $100,000 in investment. And so more about pitch prep boot camp. So it's very intensive. We find that those that take advantage of all the different offerings and practice sessions do better. So again, it's sort of twice a week. We will have a first kickoff session once the top 12 are chosen. For beginning of February, we have a kickoff info session on the pitch prep, how to do a good pitch. And then we give you a schedule of all the available pitches. You will have 10 minutes to pitch. You get 10 minutes with the evaluators, and you will get more information available. So let me just see, somebody's in the waiting room. Sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at one time. Now, the pitched, and so it's a really good experience. We've had a lot of people tell us that it's probably one of the most valuable experiences going through the pitch prep boot camp, where they've been involved in other pitch competitions, and they have had success in those, and they attribute it to being successful and going through our pitch prep boot camp. Let's see here. And then the due diligence, if you make it to the top 6, it's a roughly 4 to 6 week period. Again, we start off with an information session. We do a training on how to do due diligence, how to set up your data room. We provide you with a legal due diligence checklist, a business due diligence questionnaire, what the investors are expecting to see. And then again, you will be introduced to each of your investor due diligence teams, and then you engage with them. You probably have a couple of meetings, whether they can be via email, Zoom, some in person, it's a great experience for you to go through. It's pretty intense, and a lot of companies have come back and said this is way more intense than we've had with any venture investors, that they really dig in, want to make sure they know what they're getting into, because it is a learning experience for the investors as well. So we appreciate that. So here's some, again, some special, very informative dates. And again, as Nikki said, we were going to send you the recording as well as the slide deck after we finish up here. But the bolded dates are all mandatory. So again, you're not required to participate in all the speed pitching rounds, but we do, encourage you to do so. As I said, if we feel that the ones that do participate in all the pitch prep do the best. And then again, once you make the top 6, it is mandatory that you participate and be available for due diligence, the run through at the venue, and then the live event. Okay, now we're ready to do some Q&A. I'm going to look at the chat because I know there is a couple of questions here. I don't know if you can see my screen. So who has a question? Why don't you just ask me your questions?
Hi, my name is Ed, and thank you for doing this. I have 2 questions. The first question is, how ready is ready? Because my product, needs funding to be ready. But so I guess that's the kind of how ready are how proven has the technology have to be?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think from different years, we've had different startups be at a different point in their evolution. It has to be more than idea stage, right? More than a business plan. You have to have something that shows you have started the process of creating a product. You've figured out who your target is and where your product market fit is. Now, what we've seen is sometimes companies will come to us one year and they don't make it to the top 12, or they make the top 12 and then they don't make it to the top 6 because they are too early. However, we encourage people to come back the following years. Now, depending, like I'm happy to meet with you separately after this and talk to you about the stage of your product, and you can give me more specifics. And I could tell you from my knowledge being involved since the beginning, whether you're ready or not, doesn't guarantee anything. One
Right.
of the nice things with the top 12, if you don't make it to the top six, is we do give you feedback if you want it. I specifically met with every one of the top 12 who didn't make the top six last year, and provided feedback that the investors gave of why they didn't make it, what they could work on, come back next year. These are the things that you could, use help on. And so it was a good learning experience. So I would encourage you to apply, look at this, criteria, because this is really what this bullet point one is sort of where
Mhm.
the investors decided to concentrate on. And they want to make it broad enough that it doesn't have to be something like you have to have your MVP or you have to have early revenue. They understand this is early stage. This is an angel investor startup
Mhm.
competition.
Right. And then my second question and my final question is, what's the role of the investors afterwards? In other words, are they profit sharing at that point? They're getting money back from the company, from my company, or how does that work?
Great. So as part of, if you make it to the top six, as part of the due diligence process, the investors will ask you the terms of how you want to take the investment. What we've typically seen is that most of the early stage startups will take the investment via either a convertible note or a SAFE. If you're not familiar, a SAFE is the simple agreement for future equity. It was developed by Y Combinator. They have much data on their website about what a SAFE is. They both work similarly. A convertible note and a SAFE is basically you give money now and you convert to preferred stock, hopefully, at some later date. So they're not getting equity. It's not a typical loan. They're not getting, paid monthly. They're not getting dividends. It's to, an investment now that will convert to equity in the future is what we typically see.
Okay.
And so if you're an LLC, you might need to think about, is that the right structure for investors? And that's something we also work on at the SBDC is we help you understand the different legal structures and how they fit for investors. And you might need to convert to a C Corp before you take investment, and that's possible as well. But typically we see convertible note or safe for the 100,000 plus, and then that's the way it works. And then as involvement after, we see a lot of the investors continue to be involved. We have a fund manager for each fund. So one of the investors takes on that role. And that fund manager is the point of contact with the winner or winners. And so they get your updates. They get in, they might want to meet with you periodically. And then they distribute the information to the investor group. And then we see others that are part of the investor group that might want to help out in some way. One of the nice things about this program is the network effect. And we've seen people that are said, I'm interested in clean tech. And even though that company didn't win, I want to go work with them and I want to invest in them because that's my jam, because we have a very democratic investor group. Everybody votes and sometimes, it's really tough between two companies and they might have different markets. And for whatever reason, one wins over the other, but the other one might get funding, individually by several of the investors. And so there's often lots of the investors will stay involved with the companies over time, and that's what we've seen. So
Great.
it's a lot of advisory. We have, a very wide variety of backgrounds in our investor pool, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We have a couple of questions in the chat as well. One question from Christopher Richardson is, are all entries displayed or do we see other entries?
You do not see the entries on the submittable, so you only see yours. And then you will see once the top 12 is announced, those will all be public information.
We have another question from Christopher. If my vision involves hardware plus sustainability and I'm still in the early prototype stage, what is the best way to work with Cal Poly teams and resources to accelerate development before AngelCon officially begins?
Great. Well, I would, if you're not already an SBDC client, I would, sign up with us and we could help you with that. There's different ways to work with Cal Poly. Through the SBDC, we have advisors and resources that you have available to any small business in the county. That's your first way to get acceleration. The other is often people will do student projects. So you could work with a faculty member to have a student project worked on for their quarter over the period of time. And we help facilitate those at the SBDC too. So if we have somebody that has a certain need, whether it's a software development or an engineering or a marketing project, we'll introduce you to the right faculty member and see who's available and interested in doing a student project. Then that's another way to help get resources as well. So that's typically the way we help out.
All right, and a question from Melvin Harris. Is this geared only for profit businesses?
No, we have a lot of the AngelCon winners have been pre-revenue. I would say the majority have been pre-revenue. So the winner from 2025 was a company called GreenSight. You can go on our website and see them. They were not at revenue when they won. They were not at beta when they won. They were about to start beta testing. And they actually, that was May 1st. They actually just earned their first revenue here in October. Or
Okay.
November, I'm
And
sorry.
we have a quick clarification. I think they meant like for profit versus a nonprofit business.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, this is not a nonprofit competition.
All right. And from Luke, we
But
have.
if you're interested, I'm sorry. If you're interested in a nonprofit competition, Must Charities, if you're not familiar, they're a local nonprofit that pulls together funds to invest in local charities. They actually had a competition for nonprofits, I think at the beginning of November. I don't know if they're going to be doing it annually, but I would check that out and see if they'll be doing it again. I think they had 9 nonprofits pitch and they awarded, I think, something about $45,000 or so as well. So that's a really good thing to check out for nonprofits.
We have a question from Luke. What's the general range of terms you've seen for the safe notes?
Oh, that's fun. All over the place. As with early stage startups, there's no specific range of terms that you see. It's really dependent on industry, where the company is at. Are they pre-revenue? Are they post-revenue? Where are they at in the development? I would say that most are, some sort of post-money valuation in the low millions, somewhere between 3 and 6 million. Maybe a discount included on top of that as well. The combination of the lower of a 20% discount and a 3 to 6 million post-money, valuation cap, somewhere in that range would be what I typically have seen over time. I'm trying to remember if we had any caps exceed 6. It's possible. It just depends where you're at. And that's also one of the things that is kind of tested during due diligence too. There's been years where there's been a couple, like 2 or 3 companies that have been, at the top, and the investors have gone back and say, give us your best terms. And if somebody comes back and maybe adjust their terms to make them a little sweeter, that has made a difference. So it's really that's kind of where, because these are mostly pre-seed, just after friends and family investments. Is there more on the chat, Vicky?
No, that was the last question in the chat. But if anyone else has a question, feel free to speak up directly or add more questions in the chat.
I guess I
Yeah.
have one more if you don't mind.
Don't mind at
I
all.
have an LLC right now, but you mentioned that it's probably better to be C Corp at that point. And that seems like a big step for me. So
Yeah, so that
LLCs are not the way to go?
not for investors.
Uh-huh.
So investors will want what's called qualified small business stock, and you
Hmm.
have to have a C corp in order to have that. And so one of the things that, you don't have to do this before you apply, and I certainly wouldn't advise you to do it just because you're applying to
Right, right,
AngelCon.
right.
But if you were to make it to the top 6, you would have to say, if I win, I will agree to convert to a C corp before I sign the SAFE or convertible note or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. That
And
makes sense.
converting to a C corp is not a difficult process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But qualified small business stock status is very beneficial if you hold your stock for a certain period of time. Um, it used to be 5 years. They've changed the rules where now if you hold it 3, you get a portion of the exemption. But at 5 years, you get to exempt from federal capital gains tax treatment 100% of the greater of, well, I think they just upped this, but it used to be 10 million or 10x your basis. So if it's $100,000 investment and they get 10x of that, that's a pretty significant exclusion from federal capital gains. And also now, since last July, I think it starts when you actually invest in the safe. So they just changed the rules this year under some latest tax rules. I need to double check those. But yeah, it's very beneficial for investors, and it doesn't apply if you're an LLC, doesn't apply if you're an S corp. So that's why.
A related question from Christopher: how hard is it to go from LLC to C Corp?
It's not very difficult. You just need to have the right startup attorney that knows what they're doing, and we're happy to have referrals. We have a lot of referrals. I'm a former corporate securities lawyer, so we have a big network of people that will make sure it's done properly. So reach out anytime, and happy to give you those referrals.
And another question that was a follow-up from a previous question of what the terms typically look like in safes. Luke says, are there specifics on proof of concept with third-party validation and minimum viable product with customer feedback? What does that usually look like?
No, we don't have specifics. I think that the investors would want to see like what customer discovery have you done or what customer market research have you done? What is your product market fit? We find a lot of people, have great ideas, but they haven't really determined and talked to people about would this really be useful for you, potential customer, right? And so that's what they would want to hear is like, where is your backup data? Where's your underlying data of how are you going to go to market? And right, like how are you going to figure out what your go-to-market strategy is if you haven't done that initial ideal customer profile? And so that's kind of the backup research that they want to make sure you've done for your initial product market fit research and getting to your initial prototype or MVP.
Follow up to that. So if I have a product, talking to customers would happen before applying or could happen during the process?
It could happen during.
Okay. Okay. On to a different question from Maddie. Have you had companies participate that already had a data room prior to AngelCon due diligence? Does that change any of the preparation?
Yes. No. So typically data rooms are structured whether you're doing it for a venture investor or an angel investor, they're structured very similarly. So you might just need to copy what you've already done and then, put it in an organized fashion for the angel investors. We do a training and, it's really up to you how you want to organize it, but we do give you a legal due diligence checklist that's really easy to follow. That is a good way to organize your data. But yeah, many people have already had data rooms. And James, you have a question?
Yeah, hey, this is James Penrose. I just want to ask, like, what does a successful application look like to get into the AngelCon?
Yeah, that's a great question. More data is better. Um, you know, I wouldn't just use ChatGPT and not proof it, or one of the other ones. Uh, you know, you really want to describe what is your product, where are you in the process of development, what customer research have or haven't you done, or where you're going to go with it, right? What is your strategy to go to market? If you look at the submittable, there are specific questions in there for you to answer. You want to have some kind of pro forma financials ready to go and uploaded. From what I've seen before, some people put up an Excel spreadsheet with 3 lines. That's not going to cut it, as well. So some people will include videos of their product, or their MVP or some screenshots as well. So the more detailed, specific information you can have, and how are you differentiated from competitors, right? If you're going into a very crowded market, like why and how are you going to differentiate yourself? And so those are important factors.
Thanks.
Mhm. Anything else?
I have a question of are these startups in the top six typically tech focused? Are there certain industries that you've seen get into the top six over other industries?
Yeah, typically top six are tech focused, in most cases. So winners have been, SaaS products, med device products, let's see, apps. But we've had top six that are in other things like last year, Mr. Turtle, who was doing a kiosk for doing your refilling your laundry soap, right? Not your typical tech-based startups, although there was tech in the screens and what you needed to program. But last year it was a SaaS company for IT asset disposal companies, right? Competing against medical device or another SaaS company. Another medical device company was in the top six. The year before was a clean tech company doing very sophisticated hardware to scan your recycle bins to see if there are batteries that could catch on fire in them before they're picked up by your trash service providers. And so that's called Nextera. And then the second runner-up for that year was a menstrual cup company that's doing interesting things working with labs to use the menstrual cup for specimen collection so that the labs can go and use that to test for certain, health-related issues. And so we've seen all kinds of different things, tax-based software, music-related software. What else? I'm just trying to think. Another Parkinson's-related medical device. One that started out as a board game resale company that turned into a SaaS-based product over time for retailers, which is an interesting pivot, and is doing really well. So all kinds of different, but all usually had some kind of tech component that you typically see in a startup competition. We do have some, time to time, we've had consumer Passion Footwear, which is one of our well-known startup here in SLO, was in year one of AngelCon in the top 6. Haley didn't win, but she did finish out her raising her initial pre-seed round that night. So, and she's, killing it these days. So you never know. Did another question come on the chat, Nikki?
No more questions for now,
Okay.
unless someone's got another one coming in. All right. Last question.
We had one question. Is it better to apply early? Does it have any sort of effects? If I'm applying on January 14th or in like 2 weeks or something, does it have any effects? Is it first come, first served, or you guys start reviewing the applications like right after the deadline?
The investors won't get the applications till January 17th. However, I would not wait till January 16th to start working on your application.
Yeah, we typically receive applications very late in the game. So the deadline is January 16th, and we get the majority of applications on the 16th. There's not an advantage or a disadvantage, I would say, to applying earlier, but it's always nice to get an estimate of how many folks are applying in this cohort. So if you want to do us a bonus favor, just to give us a little peace of mind, that's always great. And our staff is not judging the applications. The applications are directly judged by the investor group.
Yeah, so also if you have questions, right, for us as the staff about the application process, or if you're having technical issues with submittable, right, the cutoff is the cutoff. If you're late, you're not going to get in. And so I would start it earlier rather than later, and not wait till 11:30 p.m. on the 16th to turn it in. So that way you have ample time to ask us questions. We're not going to be working at 11 p.m. on the 16th. So, and we're also closed during the holiday week between Christmas and New Year's. So, start now and start working on it and ask us questions as you go, if necessary, and be ready to submit it, that week of the 16th. Anytime before then would be really helpful. But, you have to think about, are there things that might change between now and then that you want to include in your application? Obviously, that last few days, I don't think anything's going to relatively change. But, if something significant in your product development is going to happen between now and then, you'd want to include that. So that's the only reason I would say to maybe wait if you have something like that.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, of course. And again, if you have any other questions after this session, you can reach out to us at any time. We're here to answer any questions you have. We're here to help as well. And then again, this is the link to start your application. Again, it's through Submittable. And then this is our main email for the AngelCon that you can send questions to and reach out, and one of us will get back to you with an answer